agenda. On the consent agenda are the minutes of our meeting on September 21st, 2020, as well as the income and expense report year-to-date September 2020. I have a motion to approve. Is that David?
Yes.
David moves.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Bill seconds. Thank you. Any questions, edits, revisions? Anyone observed necessary? Or does anyone wish to pull anything from the consent agenda? I see no one seeking to do that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right. Passes. First item on our strategic discussion and reports is an update on from the nominating task force with regard to our new board members. Bill, would you like to take that? You're muted currently.
Yep, they were all approved at both levels, so we're good to go.
Okay. At the town board of trustees meeting and then the county commissioners. Thank you. So Claudine and I are making contact with them to establish a time for an orientation session, probably after the first of the year. On the government affairs side, wanted to bring to your attention our annual evaluations. Normally, about this time, we would be asking Claudine to submit her self-evaluation upcoming sometime in the next few weeks. She has requested that we postpone her evaluation until January. Any discussion? Anyone have any objection to that? Everybody's okay with that? Nod. Okay. All right, so she will submit in early January to the board her self-evaluation. She and I have discussed a slight change in the format of one section that hopefully will make it a little easier on us to give her an evaluation. So that will take place at that time. My intention was to not request self-evaluations from trustees for this year. I thought we did a very good job at that last year and felt that that was adequate. We had no one new this year. Anyone have any objections and just really wants to do a self-evaluation? Well, at least I got a couple of smiles. Okay. So we will dispense with those for this year, but we probably will try to do them again next year. And I think on a every 2-year basis might be adequate. We'll see. Okay, we'll turn then to the finance committee.
John? Okay. Oh, I was just going to ask you, he's been invited to attend our last couple of meetings of this year.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Are you not hearing me? I just wondered if the new trustees will be joining us for the last couple of meetings of this year.
They'll be invited to, yes.
Okay.
And I mean, they could be watching the streaming right now, perhaps. But yes, we're inviting them to, in fact, probably invite them to join the study session in November with the budget hearing.
Okay.
Okay, we'll turn it to the finance committee. I let David know what my expectations on these 3 items were in a little email. I don't know how you've divided up the responsibilities, but I'll turn it over to David to start with.
Well, we'll discuss those items, and I invite Claudine and Cindy to chime in as needed, correct or add things. The financial policy is not actually due to be reviewed again until 2022, but except for the feature of what we've been trying to accomplish all year is the internal oversight portion of it. And there's been a lot of work done on that without much success so far. This segues easily into the RFP process for the new auditor that was put out in September, and at the October 6th deadline, only 2 proposals were received. One by a rather large firm, and I believe they are the ones that are also offering some of the internal control services. One relatively newer firm, but another proposal. The larger firm's proposal was like a $14,000 proposal, and the smaller firm's was like an $8,000 proposal, but that was without the internal controls. We had discussion about this at a finance committee meeting about whether we should proceed with other directions or to try to use the 2 that were presented. Claudine, I will ask you, have you had any conversations with any of the other districts to give us any further information on who they use?
The short answer is yes. I reached out to one of my favorite contacts on the Chief Finance Officers for Public Libraries list, and he's hoping to have a conversation later this week. But of course, before we sent out the RFPs, the Finance Committee knows that we reached out to the finance officer group for the state before we started to get recommendations and to reach out. So why we had only 2 is remains a mystery, but we're hopeful to solve it. Does that answer your question, David?
There's yes, because there has been effort to reach out in multi-sources. First, it was locally to see if we could find any local persons, but no one felt they had the qualifications to do a government entity type audit. The net was widened at that point using personal connections and things like that. And then BidNet was found and thought that that would be a good resource because of their full statewide focus. And I will tell you that I've seen a few proposals from that, but as of the deadline, as you see, we've only received 2. I think they're both decent proposals. I believe we will probably have another finance committee meeting maybe next week to try to make a decision by the October 30th current deadline anyway, to be able to present at the November board meeting someone to approve or not on that. Is that correct on our current timeline, Claudine? Yeah. So any further questions on it, John? Have you read the 2 proposals?
Yeah. Claudine shared what those proposals were in brief to me at Government Affairs. I think you probably will need to go ahead and make a decision between those to recommend. I did talk to Lowers, who have an auditing firm and a partner who does audits out of Sterling. They're in no position to try to submit anything. I don't know if they were on the list or not even. But their comment to me was Colorado is losing audit firms. And that may be part of the issue. Everyone is just overloaded because we don't have enough firms actually doing that work right now. That was their opinion anyway.
Well, the market would suggest that that's a niche someone should pursue.
Yeah,
if
David.
Looking for this type of 10 years ago, I would have seriously considered it. But anyway, that also leads into that our budget timeline. The budget first draft was submitted to us as a board by the October 15th deadline. The preliminaries have been completed. That was submitted to us. Now it's up to us to, upon receipt of it, publish the notice of budget to the public for inspection, to be published in the Trail Gazette and the Estes Park News. That's the next part of the timeline. And then after that, the November study session, November 5th, we will have the first of 2 public budget hearings. And then at the regular November board meeting on the 16th, in November, we'll have a second of two public budget hearings. December 10th is when the assessor's deadline for providing the final assessed valuation is. At the December board meeting on the 14th, we'll need to have a final approval of the budget and prepare a certification of the mill levy and have Claudine sign that. And then December 15th will be the deadline for the certification of the mill levy to the county commissioners. And what is it, January 31st, the final budget due to DOLA. So I'm on the budget process.
Okay.
So the November meetings to me are the most important to see if we get any kind of public comment. We have not had much in prior years, but maybe in this extraordinary year of 2020, there'll be more participation in that.
Maybe.
You look doubtful, John. I'm hopeful. I always hope that there will be some input, but I think the proposed budget draft looks really good. Cindy was able to pull down that initial valuations off the internet last week because waiting for it in the mail, I guess it didn't come actually in the mail till today. So she was able to pull that down and prepare that draft budget. I think did a very good job with it to par the expenses down to where we can still show a slight budget surplus at the end of the year. The valuation was moderately changed downward. I mean, a few $1,000s, wasn't it? Like maybe 3,000 tax dollars less than the previous year. So I was quite happy to see that. There's some other factors. If you notice in the financial statements that, for instance, interest on all the accounts is only 32% of what our budget projected. So they appropriately budgeted less for 2021 in that. Items like that, but I was very happy with the draft budget of what I've read so far. Kay, please chime in if you have any comments on the draft budget.
All right, we'll have opportunity when we take action to have any comments and further discussion at that point too on the draft budget. I thought it was good to get it on record with everyone as far as our procedures and the different dates that we have ahead of us. Thank you, David. Anybody else? Any questions for David on any of those items? Okay.
Well,
Very
thank
good.
you to Claudine and Cindy for a lot of good hard work on that.
Agreed.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say thanks, Cindy and Claudine, for a lot of good hard work on that budget.
I agree with the switch in names, David. I will take 10% credit and Cindy can have the rest.
Lots of hard work, I know. Okay, we will move on then to the library director. Claudine, you have a couple of items.
It is time for the quarterly strategic report, third quarter ending the end of September. You saw the narrative and you saw the statistics, and some of you may have seen notice of our staff. Last week we had 2 staff resign due to personal health issues. So there's just a dwindling all around of our deliverables, but perhaps I can focus without being Pollyanna truly on the staff's really constant commitment to making sure we're providing a quality product for those who come. So if there are any questions I can answer about the report, which is largely written by the supervisors and their teams. And then if you had any questions about the data, and I want to thank Joanna who compiles that on the library's behalf. So any questions I can answer on third quarter?
In the past, I've gone section by section. I don't plan to do that tonight unless you really want me to. If you've observed any particular items that you have a question or want to make comment on, this is your opportunity. Yes, Bill.
No, I thought it was interesting that the digital checkouts declined 11%. I thought the explanation that it was people were out hiking on the trails, but after what I heard from the at the conference about the libraries that were really having troubles because there had been such an escalation in the e-materials checkout. So maybe I can ask a related question of Claudine. So Claudine, is it the case that with the new ILS, it's easier to check out digital materials? Or do I have that wrong?
Bill, you asked the best leading questions. Thank you. The answer to that is yes. One of the most significant reasons that we migrated to this new ILS is that it is a few clicks fewer. You can search for something in the catalog and you don't have to care whether it's the cloud library or whichever provider it is. It simply shows up as a digital download in one search. So you are correct. We do hope that that will have a positive impact.
Cool.
Thanks.
As long as I have the floor, one more comment. I just think it's amazing that you and your team were able to get that ILS implemented in times of smoke and fire and COVID. I mean, oh, what a deal.
Thanks, Bill.
And get everybody trained up too.
Well, that's my second topic for tonight, which I'm happy to wax on for no more than 90 seconds. But are there any more questions? Thank you, Bill. Are there any more questions about the report in general? That was unclear.
I was looking for comments from Gretel about what she's doing with Mountain Home Cafe, and I didn't find it on the Hispanic books.
I don't know when she finally finished that, John, but it'll probably be because she's been planning for it, but it occurred, I think, in October, early October. My guess is
maybe so. I thought I saw it in September, but maybe not.
I'll be sure to ask her to include it
next time. Sure.
You bet.
Okay.
Got it.
The only other comment I have is on the dashboard, lots of red, understandable in my opinion. There are some greens that are very interesting. School age programs at almost twice as many programs. Didn't have quite the attendance, but I think that shows that the staff is making every effort. Likewise, under the civic life and village events, more programs, quite a bit more attendees overall. So there are some positives out there for sure. Anyone else? And I'm assuming Anne, even though her name shows up, still isn't actually with us.
Anne is listening.
Oh, you are there. That's the first I heard
am listening.
Okay, good. I want to give you opportunity too, Anne, if you have something to share.
Okay.
John, I'll move on to the ILS.
Please.
You may have seen in some emails that have gone back and forth at an operational level with the staff that Jamie Murphy was the, depending how you look at it, lucky or unlucky sudden ILS systems administrator for the library. And she has truly risen to the task. When Mark needed to leave for family issues, and he has stayed in touch as best he could from a distance, Jamie really took over and filled that void. And in fact, she's been our main source of detailed data gathering and distribution, whether it's for our own staff or the school district. So she's really keeping all connections going. She keeps everybody connected on, for example, our last meeting that we've paid for to do, the punch list, if it were a building project, our punch list with the migration, they meet regularly, and Jamie's really had it largely under control. So of course, credit goes to Peggy and Linda Wisniewski, who have been the main trainers for the staff. But I think by and large, no news is good news. And we do expect that in the first quarter, at this point, I hesitate to overcommit because I can't predict next week very well. But we do anticipate having one of the reasons we bought Susi Dynex, we chose to contract with them rather, is because of some of the bells and whistles that come later when we're ready to transition further. So just as a little reminder, Curtis has part of the first year next year dedicated to transitioning the calendaring and the emailing and the communications. All of that becomes integrated. And believe it or not, that's kind of 21st century stuff for public libraries. We don't have that capability right now, but we will have it next year. So things just keep getting with this vendor a little more sophisticated, but we need Curtis to be able to make the time with the program team to implement all of that. So more to come. I mean, that's something to look forward to.
Thank you. So
Before we go on, Claudine, has there been feedback from the public?
The only feedback that I have received thus far are people not liking the colors, the size of the font, and please don't diminish it too much. You know, change is hard for everybody, but some of that feedback, since it was received so early, we were able to put that into our, what do they call it? Smooth sailing meeting? I can't remember, but the punch list. And, you know, the truth is, most of us are over 55. I don't mind bigger font. Good idea. So we're implementing that feedback, but I will be sure Jamie and I will be meeting weekly between now and December 1st, with Mark not being as available, and the school district. It's a small point, but you might be aware that their library team was not able, when we migrated, to migrate at the same time. So they're doing that now. And what it means is by December 1st, all the village catalog partners will be up to speed. For example, today we had somebody come in and ask for a book they got on the catalog, but that book's at the middle school library and they're not ready yet to do the full catalog. But that's positive. Like, that's great. Well, eventually this will be smooth. The target now is December 1st. And people were pretty understanding. I was listening to it, you know, from my office. They were like, oh, okay, thanks. We can wait.
okay, anyone else on the ILS? I'm going to go back real briefly, if I may, to the quarterly report. I've forgotten that there was one item that raised a question for me.
Mm-hmm.
On page labeled 6, overdues under COVID. Peggy says, overdue items for which X amount of dollars was billed. Now we're fine free.
Right.
So what was billed
Items that are not returned
at all? Not overdue.
at all.
Just,
And just as a reminder, it's still not a very punitive system, or at least it shouldn't be in how we execute it. The idea is we send for, I don't remember how many months, but we didn't really harangue people either. Just give everybody a break. And when we finally turn that back on, you got a few emails that said this is overdue. And if somebody's waiting for it, you get that message until finally we say, no problem, here's the bill.
okay.
Yeah.
So that much bills through September have gone out.
Those have gone out. Mm-hmm.
$10,000. Okay.
Doesn't mean what we hope, of course, John, right? Is to get the books back.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Or we have to buy replacements.
Right. So did I think you may have been the trustee, perhaps it was someone else who asked about overdues under COVID. Did that answer the question? That might have been you, John.
I don't remember if
Okay.
I asked that or not.
That's all right.
I knew there's delays because we've gotten notices saying you've got a book that's, due and we've already returned it. So it's on the table.
Right. It's
being
in quarantine. Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. All right. That's all I had. No one else still has anything else on any of these?
Just
So
my
what
thanks
if
for the
you
team.
have-
Sorry, Ann.
Claudine, if you have a book overdue under COVID, what does that mean?
Well, it's meant a lot of, unfortunately, Ann, it's not a direct answer because it's meant different things since March. we overlooked all overdues, I think until the first week of August, if memory serves.
That's right.
And then we started messaging people to return it. So I think John's question was, have we suddenly reverted back to being a library that provides fines, that fines
Oh,
people for late
yeah.
books? And the idea is no.
No.
But if you never return the book, we are sending you a bill. We're still
Okay.
a responsible steward of public resources. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'll
Good.
pay my bill.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, friends and family, friends and foundation report. Claudine, you have it. Would you like to, or Bill, you're our representative to them. Anne's not, Annie's not able to be with us tonight. Would you like to share her report?
You all received copies of it in the packet, so I don't think there's really have much to comment on. So,
Okay, I guess I'd like to be sure that we emphasize the Colorado Gives Day, which they participate in, as well as quite a number of other nonprofits. And that's December 8th this year. It's usually the first Tuesday, but I guess it's the second Tuesday this year. So that's an avenue, a way that you can focus on your donation, year-end donations and gifts to a lot of the nonprofits, and particularly the Friends and Foundation of the Library. Anyone have any questions on any of this? No. Okay. In that case, we will move to our action item. The action item is a resolution, which I will read, and then I'll ask for a motion and a second. Whereas Colorado State statute requires a draft budget be received by the Board of Trustees on or before October 15th, and whereas state statute requires the Board of Trustees to authorize publishing said draft budget for the public, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Estes Valley Public Library District does acknowledge receipt of the 2021 draft budget on October 15th, 2020, and instructs the library director to publish said draft budget for the public. Now I have a motion.
I so move.
Bill moves, second,
Second.
and second. Thank you. Discussion. No discussion?
I guess
No.
I have to ask. I guess I have to ask the big question. So, 7% reduction. I know that doesn't mean any staff reductions, but are there any significant reductions in services to our clients? It wasn't obvious to me from reading it.
Bill, my answer is no. Cindy did produce two versions of this budget, one with the 7% reduction, and that 7% is really focused on materials and programs, not any other expenses, just as a highlight for everyone. But there is another version of it. And Cindy, I'd love for you to bop on. Can you remind me? I think the difference was marginal. If we kept our programs and services flat 2020 to 2021, it was a modest, we still have reserves is the bottom line. Cindy, anything you would want to add to that?
No, the difference was quite modest. You're correct.
Approximately $25,000 difference. I would personally like to ask the board to consider that we go with that version with 3 exceptions. And that would be for the adult materials to go back to a 2% increase. There's 3 line items that are in that category. One, adult digital collections ebooks, 2% increase over the 2020 budget would put that an increase of $980. On adult fiction, 2% increase over the 2020 would add another $310. And the adult nonfiction, 2% increase would bring that add on $290 for a total of $1,580. That budget, the budget that has the flat on the items that were otherwise reduced by 7%, would now be $100,000 surplus. So we're still in a surplus situation without really reducing some of the key areas that we've promised the public in the past that we would have at least a 2% increase. Now, that's not the resolution that's before us. The resolution is actually just that we accept the draft.
I agree.
So we can, table that if you'd like. But I really appreciate some kind of a nod. We're not going to take a vote on it, but a nod or some kind of expression from each of the board members if you are generally in agreement that that's the kind of direction that we would ask the library director to take. Bill?
I think it's a really good idea, John, especially symbolically, since among the few complaints of people are we don't have the right adult books. So totally appropriate.
And you have my nod.
And we can certainly afford it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you both. Okay, and David, any comments?
I think in the scheme of things, what you're asking, John, are nominal. I think it's well worth doing it that way.
I'm in agreement.
Okay.
It was prudent planning, and I'm so grateful that it worked out the way it did.
Well, largely we were waiting to see what the revenue was going to come in at, and
Yep.
yes, it came in a few $1,000s below what last year's was, or this year, excuse me, what 2020 was. So I just have a personally heartburn at the idea that we start cutting budgets, anticipating something that apparently hasn't happened. So, yes, Bill.
Yeah, my only worry is about the 220,000 expected from Friends and Foundation. I hope that's realistic. That's all. So
They have a meeting coming up, I guess, and
26.
yeah, next Monday. I would appreciate if the communication could go to their board that even with what appears to be flat support, 200,000, that since their executive director's salary and benefits keeps going up, that the library is really receiving less and less from them each year that supports programs in the library operations.
I'll communicate that, John.
Thank you. We,
John,
as well communicate that we do appreciate the support that we receive from them, but I hope that they understand that it is getting less and less.
John, can you do me a favor, or maybe Claudine should do it? If I had the figures for the last 5 years of what the net contributions of Friends and Foundation were to the library, net meaning minus the cost of the executive director, A, I'm curious about that just as a board member, and B, I might need to use that in the meeting. So I'll be delicate, don't worry.
And Bill, I had a conversation offline with Ann Finley, and I believe it is their objective to really be looking at net donations to us in its own light from their operational expenses. So I think I'm extremely the feedback I've received is we're in alignment. I'm sure it won't be, this is a tough year to make that leap, right, of 200,000 plus operating, but I think it's a great start to begin negotiating that. And I'm quite certain the president of the foundation is on the same page.
And she's asked
That's
to
good
meet with me probably this Friday, so we'll probably discuss that a little
Great.
bit. So,
Okay.
thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, and Bill, Cindy and I will, it'll take me an hour. It'll take her 5 minutes. We'll have that for you before Monday's meeting.
Okay, we've kind of gotten off from the
Yeah.
resolution that's in front of us, and that's my fault. But wanted to bring a few of those things up since we are talking generally about the draft budget. We'll leave further discussions with the Finance Committee, with Claudine and her staff. And then we'll have a recommendation, first final, if you will, for the November study session. So at this point, if no one has any comments or questions about the actual resolution before us, that is to receive the 2021 draft budget and authorize its publishing. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please unmute and say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 And aye, and that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And get back to my agenda. That passed. I think that completes all of the business for tonight, unless anyone has an item that they wanted to bring up. Your opportunity. Bill?
Yeah, this is a kind of an off-the-wall comment, but Mark Riffle has done such wonderful things for the library from everything I've observed. Is it appropriate for the board to send him a thank you letter for all of his contributions, all of his creativity?
Yeah.
It's just a question.
Yes, at the appropriate time when the date is actually established when he's going to retire, because that was to be established, right? Okay. Excuse me. We will do that, and we may want to do a little more than that and have a special gift of some kind from the Board of Trustees. And Claudine and I will discuss that, and I'll bring that to the board. Is that okay?
So we had 2 resignations in the same week, and the first one was actually Diana Laughlin from the Program and Outreach, and the second is Mark Riffle. So it's just Mark's been here 12 years, I think. Diana 8. It's something like that.
Okay.
And we're losing real talent, and it is where we are right now. And I think there's a little bit of a cloud.
Understandable.
And we'll be discussing at the tactical level, what does it look like? Kay, I actually brought up your name saying, before any of this happened, we had our conversation about when you're doing a compensation study, where do you start? So we might be starting from 2 directions, because there's one direction in the budget right now and another direction based on the loss of these higher level performers. So we'll figure it out, John. And Bill, it's a wonderful question. Thank you so much for asking.
That's really another item as far as for the budget next year.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
those 2 positions are lost, or they are lost, it takes time to get replacements. And so we will probably not have those 2 positions filled January 1.
Probably not, John, but it won't be for lack of effort.
Understood. But it means that some salary and benefits won't happen early in the year that are otherwise in the budget. But we'll leave them there for now, just in case.
Thank you.
Ann, did you have something you wanted to share? Your light came on.
No, not right now.
Okay.
Except you could hire me.
And you are an experienced librarian. Thank you. Will you be working from Florida part-time?
Yeah, I'd have to.
Yeah, figured. Yeah, that may not work out.
That might not work out so well.
Yeah, but thank
I'll
you.
think about that.
Thank
I'll
you.
think about that though. Maybe I'm worth it.
Okay.
Okay. We have on the agenda also upcoming events, happenings. One that I did not put on there, but I would like to share with the board. The Estes Park Town Manager had requested
Oh, yeah.
Claudine, well, someone from the library, someone from the fire district, who is David Wolf, to share, excuse me, my throat, to share with the town board at their October 27th board meeting the effects of passing or not passing Amendment B on our budgets. And so I've ended up volunteering to do that, representing the library. So next week, Tuesday, at their board meeting, I'm expecting to possibly be called on to share a little something. And I put together some speaking points, which I will make as brief as possible. Otherwise, our next actual meeting for the board is on Thursday, November 5th for our first budget public hearing. And so I will adjourn now officially this board meeting of October 19th at